Hi, readers. It's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper, or welcome if this is your first time. I know I say that a lot, but I really mean it. I want you always to feel as though you're welcome here, and I really do appreciate each of you. So I just want you to know that all the time. Today is a wrap up of my August reading. I took some time off this Monday, Labor Day, because I wanted it to be a self-care Monday. So this video is going up later. May even not go up on Tuesday, but we'll see. And we had a birthday party for my partner on Sunday, and all of our family were here, and it was just so lovely to be with everyone and all of the kids and all the fun. So I was tired, and I wanted to make sure that Monday was a day where I just took care of myself, and I did. So I enjoyed it very, very much. But back to work today, back to filming today, and hopefully you'll have lots of great content this week. So to begin with my August results of the books that I read, let's go to the stats. I read 6 books in the month of August for a total of 2,336 pages. Average time for me to finish each book was 8 days. Now, again, here we are with the moods, and the biggest mood of the month of August was dark, followed by mysterious, tense, and then about equal to each of these would be lighthearted, funny, reflective, informative, and emotional. So I had a really great reading month, and I was pretty fast paced, I will say. Medium pace was 67% and fast paced was 33%, so I'm happy with that. 100% of my books were between 300 and 499 pages. That is really interesting because I don't think that's ever really happened before. So I have I'll show you, my whole blue is filled. Now, the pink one, often this happens. All of the books I read in August were fiction. So no nonfiction this month, but I had a combination of 3 of them which contained thriller, and 3 of them also would be considered mystery. 2 of them were considered historical, 1 sports. I know you're wondering about that, and it's not baseball. 1 romance, 1 literary, 1 crime, and 1 contemporary. And of course, Storygraph puts these in these categories on its own, knowing what each book is about, so I don't choose these at all. What I do choose, though, is my rating of them and how they made me feel. So a lot of them were super dark. The format of this was 67% print. Now, I think one of these I probably read a combination of both print and Kindle, but I'm okay with that. I really, really am. And 17% of them were digital and 17% of them were audio. So that was quite fun. I think it was pretty even this month, really. So I had 1 rating that was 3.5 stars, 1 rating that was 4 stars, and 1 rating that was 4.5. I had no 5-star reads this month, and I was surprised. There was one that I really thought was going to be a 5-star read, but just didn't quite get there for me. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Sorry, have to have the Java today. And of my 2,336 pages, there was one peak day where I read 637 pages in a combination of each of these, so audio, print, and Kindle. So that is a lot. And I'm not sure what day that was, but it looks like it might have been the 4th or something, but that one is really, really fun. So 6 books. They were very, very good. Now, today I am going to start with a wrap up of my series, not series September, it started yesterday, a wrap up of my Big Book Summer Challenge that I did with Sue Jackson, which was co-hosted this year with Melinda at a Web of Stories. And I'm going to just go over briefly each of those because I've talked about them before, but I just want you to know what I read. And then 2 of them I read actually in the month of August, so that'll be fun. But the first Big Book Summer book that I finished was 11/22/63, which I've talked a lot about, but I'm so happy that I did. If you haven't seen my channel before, this one was a chunker, but I flew through it. 840 some pages, and so far my best Stephen King read of all. Like, I think this is going to be it forever. I don't see how he can top this. But I do love a lot of Stephen King. In fact, I'm about to embark, I think, on another one that I didn't finish, and I'm going to try to finish it, and I'll tell you why in another video. But then I read The Big Bang Theory. This was my nonfiction pick that you chose, my subscribers and listeners chose, and this is by Jessica Radloff. This is nonfiction. I did not read this in August, obviously, but this one was really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot. Not quite a 5-star still, but definitely it was lovely, and it's just the story of all of their experiences told by them. So Jessica Radloff really just kind of curated all of these stories and then put them together in mostly in order that worked for me. Now and again I was like, what are we doing now? And they would go back and flash back to different things. But for the most part, this was the trajectory of all of those seasons. If you've not watched The Big Bang Theory, I highly recommend it. And if you like books about actors and shows that you love, this one is just what you want. It's completely and totally around the experiences of this and what made them make some of the choices that they did and how they enjoyed it while they were, performing in it. Really, really good. Okay, and then in August, I had a surprise big book. Also, these two were on my backlist, which I'm trying to track, so I was happy with that. All right, this one was not on my backlist. The Favorites by Lane, what's her last name? Goodness sakes. Lane Fargo. And I read this on Kindle completely. This was probably the most consistent Kindle reading that I did, but I was surprised to discover this one was 437 pages, so that pushed it into the big book summer criteria. This was my book club selection for my book club pals, and we met last night actually to talk about this one. And this would be the one that had the sports qualification, so it was kind of funny. Not funny that meant is a sport, but I did enjoy this one. I did not enjoy it as much as a lot of people did. I gave it a 3.5 stars, rounded it up on Goodreads to 4. My problem with this, as I told my book club readers last night, and I wasn't the only one, there was maybe one likable character in this book for me. I am really surprised that it was so filled with unlikable characters. This one is sort of a retelling, they say, of Wuthering Heights, or some people say it's partly like Wuthering Heights. We discussed that last night, and I would say there are some similarities, but it would be a stretch for me to have thought that while I was reading it. Heath is a foster child in and out of care, struggling, old enough that he is about to age out, and then moves in secretly with Kat, whose father died, and after that, her brother, who's an alcoholic and a really creepy, horrible guy, takes care of her, but not really, makes her do everything, and he just drinks, and I guess he works a little bit. So Heath is kind of always at her house, and they have a romantic relationship, but it doesn't blossom into sort of more of a commitment until later, I guess. But they're both very, very in love with each other. She and Heath are caught by her brother, and they decide to take off. And she has been ice skating for a bit since her dad put her into that, and she's been learning how to be an ice dancer. And so eventually they both become ice dancers. Heath gets training, and they struggle financially for a really long time. That's the premise of this, is that they are the favorites in the sense that they start to compete nationally and in the Olympics over time. And I don't think that that's a spoiler. I think that it tells you, yes, it does. But also in this book, which I am glad I read it on Kindle, because some of my friends listened to it on audio, and I think I personally would have been confused by it, because it would go to the past, it would go to the present, it would go to this documentary that's being made about them and people that are talking about them interviewed about them, and then it goes back and forth to these events and different things. And so I would think that in the audio version, which probably had multiple narrators, I think it did, it would have been difficult. And I suppose that's just me, but audio for me recently is a little bit up and down. Like sometimes I can do it, sometimes I just can't keep track. I would recommend the book. 3.5 stars is not a terrible thing, and rating it based on the the likability of the characters might be a little harsh. I considered that. But also, the other issue that I had was that it kind of was this happens and then this happens and then this happens again and then this happens again and then this happens again and then this happens again. And so it just felt like it was kind of constantly the same and just a lot of angst, not just because they were unlikable, but also because of the competitions and the other things that were happening and just some craziness that for me, it just was a lot. However, I will say that this is one of the best loved books recently that I have ever seen. I mean, really, people just absolutely have consumed this. I think it's been optioned for a movie. No telling whether or not that will actually begin, I suppose, but maybe it has, and I just don't know. But I really do recommend it. It just wasn't quite what I had anticipated it would be based on the hype. And I think maybe that's some of it too, is the hype had already been built. And then I read it and I was like, so perhaps that's the problem. Maybe I am the problem, but I did enjoy it. So I'm glad that I read it. After the favorites, I picked up Judy Tudor is Not a Psychopath by Jennifer Holditch. This was a book that I read because I needed to complete the ABC challenge. I needed a book that started with a J. And so Julie Tudor was the answer for me. And this one I borrowed on my Hoopla account. And I had seen the cover and I kind of had a sense of what this is going to be like. Let me just say, this is a very funny and very twisted book. This is a debut novel about a woman who is convinced that her coworker is in love with her. So much so that she has created this story in her head that he loves her, but he can't tell her because they work together. And then he loves her, but he can't tell her because he's seeing a girl that he just feels really sorry for. Or he loves her, but he can't tell her because this, because that, because whatever. So she's got this huge crush on this guy that she thinks when she's talking to him that he's sending her these signals and that he's getting signals from her. And while he might be getting signals from her now and again, it's really not, there's nothing. There's nothing there for him. And you discover that she drinks a lot, for one, and she also doesn't work very hard because she's spending most of her day trying to attract this guy and make him love her. Which of course he's never going to do. And I don't want to tell you anything that isn't in the synopsis. She's 49 years old. She has a beautiful home, which a lot of people are curious about how she acquired this beautiful home on this salary. And you will, if you decide to read this, which I really recommend it, you will discover why. The guy she loves is 25, so there's a huge age gap, but she's found herself in a similar situation that she's been experiencing before. So, not is crossed out, that's all I'm going to say. I don't want to give anything else away, but the not is crossed out on the cover of the book. And I really do recommend this. I'm not kidding you when I say this one was really fun. It's a 4.0 for me, and it was almost a 5-star read. I think it was, I don't know why it wasn't 5. I've been just kind of not in the 5-star mood lately. You know, I don't know. It's got to just be like for me, and this one just wasn't quite there, but I really did enjoy it. I also read The God of the Woods. So again, the big book summer pick for me, and I was really delighted by this. I was also delighted to discover that I had put this on my to-read list in 2024, so this counts as a backlist for me, while Julie Tudor and the favorites do not. This one does. So I did pretty well with the backlist. Stay tuned. But anyway, this one I buddy read with my friend PJ, and PJ and I had a pretty fast, I would say, read of this. I felt like it was very engrossing. I did combination of this and Kindle, and more Kindle maybe, but you know, it's hard to to pace that out. I really liked the way this author wrote the characters. This was a very interesting story. I have heard a lot of people absolutely love this. I gave this one 4.5 stars, I think. Did I? No, I gave it four. There were some unlikable characters, no kidding, but there were more likable, I guess. That maybe the balance tipped a little bit in this. It's a story about a very wealthy family whose son goes missing years before. So there's two timelines to this, which was sometimes a little tricky. There was a lot of characters for me to keep track of what they were doing and who they were. And there were back and forth from timelines. And so I had to really, in fact, I wrote a list of the characters for a while because I was just getting confused about who they were and what they did. So let's try to sort this out. There's the Van Laer family or Van Laar family, who are very wealthy, and they have a huge area with a sort of a vacation home for the summer, and they have a camp. So they live nearby. I think they live there a lot of the time. I can't really remember, honestly. Doesn't really matter. But there's generations of Van Laars, and they're very wealthy people. Bear is the first child that goes missing for this family. And then later, in the more present day time, which is still historical fiction, Barbara goes missing as well. So two children from the same family, the only children that they had. Seems suspicious, right? And neither of their bodies have been found. So all the investigations, all this time, nobody knows what happened to Bear. And so obviously the mother is not herself since this happened. She's really out there with her her behaviors too, and her mental health, especially when Barbara goes missing too. It's just like I can't do this. So 1975 is the timeline for Barbara, and they all start, of course, to try to find Barbara, and the people that are sort of the camp counselors, if you will, are really struggling with this. So that would be Louise, and then Annabelle, who was supposed to be like, paying attention to where those kids were going and was out drinking. And I think she was underage. So that's how we begin. Then there's Tracy, who is Barbara's friend as a camper. TJ, the camp director and groundskeeper, and her dad, Vic, was the camp director and groundskeeper, but he has dementia now, so she's caring for him. Yes, there's just a lot of people and a lot of stuff going on. And I had to kind of keep track of it all in my head. And so for that reason, it was a little tricky to read. And so I gave it a 4.0, but it's really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I would read something else by this author. I'm really grateful that this was the book of the month and that I ended up getting it for free, because I probably wouldn't have purchased it otherwise, but I try to always take advantage of free books, and so I did. So this was the Book of the Year winner for 2024. And so that was my big books, the four of them, and a couple of little ones too. All right, then I also read, this is on my backlist, The End of Her by Sherry LaPena. I'm trying to read her to zero, so now I think I have two left to be able to do that. But I've had this one for a while, and I really enjoyed this. This was Penguin 2020, this came out. The End of Her is really good. I enjoyed this one a lot. I gave this one 4 stars too. And I will tell you, this is about Stephanie and Patrick. I set this up for you before. They have twins. They're very colicky. She's really struggling with taking care of these twins. Patrick is working all the time. He's everywhere where he shouldn't necessarily be. She's sleep deprived, which of course then makes you wonder, is this real? Is this really happening? What is going on? Your executive function is not quite the way it should be. And then Erica, who is someone from Patrick's past, comes in and accuses Patrick of something that is intense, and she has some other secrets that she's bringing in. And at first, he's the only person that realizes that she's who she is, because of course, Stephanie doesn't know her. She's never known her before. Stephanie does know that his first wife died and how that happened, and that it was deemed an accident. So she's never questioned that. But then this woman kind of shows up in her life now and again, and she is kind of like, who is that? And then, yeah, she discovers what's happening. It was really, really good. I was not sure what was going to happen in this book, and it was fast paced. I feel like I read it pretty quickly, and it was very dark. It was very tense. It really was paced well, though, and it really was. I would say mostly it was, something that you expected was going to happen. So there weren't any like pop, things that would occur that you didn't see coming, but there were some other things that you were like, oh, wow. Oh, like when they were revealed, you were just like, oh, I really recommend this one a lot. I liked it. It was probably one of my favorite ones of hers, to be quite honest. It's up there for sure. I also read an arc, The Mysterious Case of the Missing Crime Writer by Ragnar Jonasson. I did talk about this a little bit in my haul because, of course, this was a haul for me. So I'm not going to talk about this a whole lot because we've already talked about it before, but this was a 4.0 for me as well. It was 320 pages. I read it digitally, obviously, because it was an arc for me from NetGalley, and I don't usually listen to my NetGalley arcs, but I really liked this. This is a new one, brand new. I don't think it's even come out yet. This one is about a missing crime writer, and Helga goes in to try to find out what happened to this person. This is going to drive me nuts, you guys. And in doing so, he interviews her friends. And so he finds out a lot about what happened to her and those kinds of things. And so in the previous wrap up of my haul, I do go into this in a bit of detail, but there's a lot of surprise things that happen and some characters from Death at the Sanatorium, because this was when he kind of started to shine and Hulda kind of didn't anymore. I might recommend that you read Death at the Sanatorium before you read this one, but you don't probably have to. I love this author. I will continue to read his Nordic noir as long as he keeps writing it. He really does have a great reputation within my bookish mind, and yeah, if I can get a hold of another one, I almost always do because they're so good. All right, and then the one that got the best ratings of the month, I was a buddy read for me as well with my friend Rosemary. We read the Postmistress of Paris together not long ago, and we both talked then about how we might want to read as a buddy read the next one that was coming out. This is a new release, and I said, yes, yes, let's do it. So we both read Typewriter Beach by Meg Waite Clayton together, and I really enjoyed this. This was a 4.5 for me. It was very close to a 5-star. I have loved hers. I did mark a few things in this book with my darts, which I'm almost out of, so I'm going to have to get something else to use. But this one was set in well, not Hollywood. It was set in in the beach at Carmel, in a cottage, but also it was revolving around Hollywood, which is what I think made it really special to me as well, because I love that kind of golden age era of Hollywood and of movies. So 1957 is one timeline, and you follow Isabella, who's in a contract with Hitchcock at that studio, and she's then sequestered a few weeks later into a cottage, waiting and dreading, is what the synopsis says. And her neighbor Leon Chazon is annoyed because he's typing and she's interrupting him and saying she can hear his typing. And then they end up becoming friends, and they end up, realizing that they need to adjust to each other. And he is an amazing character, and as is Isabel. They're very, very well developed characters. 2018, Gemma Chazon, Leon's daughter, has gone to Carmel to sell his cottage because he's passed away. And so that's the timeline that goes back and forth. And you learn more about Leon as you go along. And of course, you learn more about Isabella. And then there are other people that then live there in 2018. So then Gemma makes friends with some other people in the neighborhood, and this was really well done. And again, I love this cover. Like, who could not love this cover? I read this pretty quickly, and I'm really happy that I got to this as soon as I did. So I had purchased it, and then we read it. And I highly recommend it. I'm a fan of Meg Waite Clayton all around. It's difficult, and it's lovely. It's difficult subject matter, and it's difficult in many, many layered ways, but it's lovely. Just lovely. So take a look at it if that sounds like something you would like. So that's my reading wrap up. Not in the order that I intended, but I've been a little rusty because I've taken some time off and I haven't been filming for a few days, and so there you go. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you read in the month of August, or I will watch on YouTube. If you have a video, feel free to post it in the comments below so we can all take a look as well. I really think August was a nice reading month for me. I'm happy with it. And I suspect that September will be too. I'm already working on my series September, as well as a book club read that we're reading in October. And we're decorating for fall around here already. So looking forward to showing you some of that along the way. Thanks so much for all your support and for all your recommendations and your comments. If you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave an emoji in the comments below. Something fall, like a pumpkin is good, or a leaf. I think some of you did that the other day, but I loved the space related ones for atmosphere. That was really, really cute. So I'm also reading that. So I will be hard at work doing all these things and working too. So thanks so much to all of you again. And as always, happy reading. Bye.